Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Not Enough Mana. Mana? Tell me in the comments how you pronounce that. I think it's mana. This was sent to me by Superhot Presents and is designed by Paweł Piskorski. Not Enough Mana is a potion-drinking card game for 3-6 fearless wizards. You'll be destroying each other using epic spells, curses, and artifacts while replenishing your mana, I keep going back and forth, by drinking magical potions. Let me show you how to play. So Not Enough Mana is a potion-drinking card game, and you are trying to destroy each other using cards. Now, this game does involve drinking, but they recommend that if you have people who don't drink, you can substitute it with other forms of challenge. Like examples they give are ingesting sausages, performing press-ups, or whatever else, or even just taking a regular drink, which is what we did for our version of this. So you start with 10 health points each, and you each get 5 cards into your hand. If you get an event card, you discard it until you get 5 regular cards. We'll go into the events later. Now, whatever you've decided your potions are, you can drink them at any point. I will demonstrate with this can of Diet Coke. At any point, even if it's not your turn, you can drink it. And that means you get 3 mana points, these blue crystals, immediately. There's no limit to how many mana points you can accumulate. If you run out of these blue mana crystals in the middle, then you can't get any more mana. When you lose all your health, or cannot continue the fight because you're drunk or too full or whatever, or you give up, you are eliminated from the game until one person remains. So, at the beginning of your turn, looking at your 5 cards, you draw cards up to your hand limit, which is usually 5. If you ever draw an event card like this says Elixir Transmutation. All wizards can gain any amount of hearts by spending 2 mana for each. Another example, Not Enough Mana. Until the next event is drawn, all damage also forces victims to lose the same amount of mana. Shot Glass. Until the next event is drawn, drinking a mana potion provides 1 mana less. If you draw one of those, you play it into the middle of the table, apply its effect, and then you draw a new card instead. And then, once you've played through any events you draw, then you can play mana cards. So one, for example, is something like this, Fire Arrow. It costs 1 mana. You choose a target, they lose 1 health. Greater Heal, it's 4 mana. You can gain 2 health. Lightning, it's 2 mana. The target loses 2 hearts. The target may use another lightning card in order to increase the damage of the spell by 1 and redirect it to another wizard. So this one you can actually block if you have a lightning card. Some cards also have additional costs, like this Fireball requires you to discard another fire spell card in your hand. In this case, the target would lose 2 health. Or something like Meteor Shower. It's 2 mana and a fire card. The target loses 2 health, and all wizards sitting next to the target lose 1 health. So all these are just your basic sort of damage each other, pay mana and or cards to use them. You can discard cards at any time. You just discard it face up into the discard pile. You can also exchange a card. So if you don't want a card in your hand, you can pay the cost of the exchange and draw a new card. The first card you exchange each turn is 1 mana, and it increases by 1 for each subsequent card exchange. So the first one, I could spend a mana and draw a different card. And if I wanted to do again, I would have to pay 2 mana for the next card that turn. And so you just play, discard, and or exchange cards until you want to stop. Then you declare the end of your turn. The next player goes. Here are some examples of some other cards, like a defensive spell, Magic Capture. It's a 1 mana and a white card. Steal a card from the top of the discard pile. Defensive cards can be used at any time. This is an artifact spell book. It's 4 mana and a green card. While equipped, your hand size limit increases by 1. You cannot have more than one of these. Artifacts you just play in front of yourself to equip them. Here's a curse card, Curse of Odd. It costs 1 mana. All wizards who are born in an odd month lose 3 mana. And that's pretty much it. There are team variants and other things, but otherwise you're just playing cards and drinking mana to get more drinking potions to get more mana to try to afford them, and just try to not get plastered or full or incapacitated or lose all your health. And that's the game. So this is the first drinking board game I've encountered where a direct mechanic in the game is tied to the actual drinks themselves. It's definitely interesting reviewing this as someone who, for health reasons, can't drink too much anymore. So we play with just sips of non-alcoholic drinks, And honestly, it's still pretty funny because you're constantly having to take sips in between cards. Like, okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. And you do start to feel your limits just from fullness. However, I cannot imagine being able to play this with actual booze. I feel like the card text, for one thing, is so small. And you have to drink mana potions. Wow, I'm in my own head about it. Mana potions so often that this would just devolve into absolute chaos very quickly. Which I guess is kind of the point, but let's get into why I don't think it quite works. So basically, for this kind of sort of take-that battle game, for me, especially if drinking is involved, I feel like it needs to be simple and punchy and fast. But there are too many cards in this game that let you heal or block damage, and they're kind of finicky, and the costs for cards is also kind of finicky because you gotta match the colors, that it kind of feels like a chore. There also isn't enough variety in cards, so you see the same cards over and over, and you get bored quickly. I think this game is trying to be both things, an actual card game and a drinking game, and I think you really gotta choose one or the other. Either beef it up and make it actually fun and interesting to play, or simplify it and go for these chaotic party vibes. There are some cards, like I showed you the odd month one, they have these funny sort of party game effects, and I think this game actually, I wish there was more of that. It needed more silly cards, instead of like, oh, we're actually trying to be strategic. I feel like that's not the point of this game, but the game's trying to be both. I also think this game would have benefited from having clear, number-based counters for how much health and mana that people have. Instead, you're having to count these little gems. In a game like this, you usually want to distribute damage equally to your opponents. Instead of, if you just knock someone out early, one, that's no fun for them, or for, it just kind of sucks. So having it be clear at all times, okay, this person's got 4, this person's got 5 health. You need to have that be clear just at a glance. And if people are getting tipsier and tipsier or whatever, that's just going to be impossible. Having to count all those individual little gems, that's just a hassle. Even when you're sober, it's kind of a hassle. So, I will admit that the concept of the game is genuinely funny. I do like the concept. Okay, drink more. Alright, hold on. And then you drink more to play more. It's fun. I could see variations, like, maybe you do, like, eating, like, candy or something, or having to do laps or other silly challenges. I like that, actually. But I do think that no matter what type of challenge it is to get your mana, the game does outstay its welcome, and it would have benefited from a speedier and leaner design.